All right, we're back again with Jenevieve Arrigan. It's been way too long. You were episode 1.
I'm very happy to be back. Thank you. Hello,
Yes.
everyone.
So this is a very special Easter edition. This is Maundy Thursday, if you're keeping track of the calendar. Do you remember that in CCD class? Did you take CCD class?
I did. I had to go through all of that. I only knew it though as Holy Thursday. I didn't know it as Monday.
Maundy
Yeah.
Thursday. Maybe that's an Anglican thing, but I mean, if we were there, we'd have to wash each other's feet. So I'm doing it virtually.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
So before talking to you, I wrote up some questions, and here they are. Question number 1. Salesforce product name changes. I think they just renamed Pardot, right? These seem to come all the time, often. Do you have any opinion on this phenomenon?
Yes, I would say without fail, every single time they do it, it's just obnoxious. The one exception that I can think of with this, now, every single time without fail, I was recently talking with someone, helping out someone with Experience Cloud, and
Yes.
in the process
formerly known as
Communities,
yeah.
And so in the process of working with Experience Cloud, part of what you have to do is go look at the Community Cloud licenses. They can't even maintain their own internal naming nomenclature throughout the app. And so it's just a cause of constant confusion when you're talking with clients. It's like, oh yeah, well that used to be this, now it's this. And it just feels, what it does is it feels like a lot of things are built almost on a foundation of sand that's ever shifting. And so, how are we supposed to trust that this technology has been around and is solid for 5-10 years when you've changed its name 3 times? And
yeah,
so I'm not a particular fan of that. There are times where it makes sense to rebrand if you are doing something significant or refactoring, or if information presents itself to cause it.
Yes.
But Salesforce has just a propensity to love the marketing angle that comes from having a new name.
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, I think Salesforce's marketing department is unbelievable. Like what they've done to, let's face it, a relational database in the cloud. It has been incredible, right? But this is just one small little quirk that I always think that's. I made a joke recently on Twitter, like I need to get certified, and I just randomly put together terms, right? Like Lightning Cloud Marketing Sales Funder.
Be like, oh yeah, I actually know that role.
And I wonder how many people knew I was joking, and how many people thought, oh yeah, I should get that certification too.
The Salesforce, so there's always that that slight push and pull, right? Of from the implementer partner side of things, there are things that Salesforce does that is obnoxious. But I don't want to downplay how successful they are at what they do.
Yes.
Because it's insane. Like, even though I might not like it, maybe that is good business for them.
Right.
But the downstream impact of that, I feel, can be... It puts a lot of the burden on the partners who are implementing to pick up the fallen pieces of these type of things.
Right.
But at least new client and new excitement and new talking points have happened, and it's ultimately probably more good than bad. But I would prefer that they spend less time rebranding.
Very good. So the next question. I'm with a client, and they're putting user stories in CMC. You remember that?
Seriously?
Yeah, it's the Cloud Management Center. And so I have a couple questions. So if you weren't at Aperio, you might not know what we're talking about. But so CMC was the cloud management center, kind of a tool Perio had built. And by the way, didn't you and I kind of create a precursor to CMC? If my
it was the app, if I'm not mistaken.
The app. Yes. Wow. So yeah, we're kind of
Agile project planner, I think it was.
Agile project planner. So here's my question. What do you like to use in your projects to track agile development?
It's a phenomenal question. As a smaller company, I don't have that authority power that Aperio had, for instance, to be able to say in our contracts, we are definitely using this. So what I tend to have to do is some clients, I just have to figure out what's the best option that they have there at the time. For some clients, this means using Jira. For others, this means using whatever documentation options that I have. Smartsheet has been used. In a long enough relationship with a client, you can help to guide them to better technology solutions. But that often is that if you're coming into a client that doesn't already have a solid tool that supports it, there's probably a lot of training and guidance that you as a trusted advisor need to do to put in the work in order to get them to that state.
Right.
So that's sort of where I'm at. And be agile with it. The most important thing is getting that user story captured somehow. There is never a better agile tool than a postcard that you just put up on the wall. The index card is the most perfect agile tracking tool.
Wow.
But in the virtual space, you really can use anything as long as you make it lightweight enough that you can review it, so that you can touch it and talk about it, and that you track as a particular type of user. I want to do a particular type of thing, so I get a particular type of value. That all comes together and can be captured in many ways.
Yeah, I've been using DevOps a lot, and I kind of hate it, but it works. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've definitely had love-hate relationships with some of the project management tools I've had to use. It's important though to have something.
One thing people might not know about the cloud management center is we had the idea of assets, right? Which was like pre-written code or solutions. And as internal employees, we would get like a royalty of points, like a gamification point, whenever an asset we wrote was used. And I remember I wrote one asset early in my Aperio career when I still had technical skills. And it was used over and over again. It reminded me of like someone who wrote a hit song in the 70s. Like I had my Freebird, and I just lived off that for a long time. And then we could use those points in the company store. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. I remember always being very disappointed with the options in the company store, but the concept was there.
My assets made maybe a lot of mugs. Let's just say that.
There really was a lot of potential power in what Aperio was trying to do with that tool system. It's a challenging thing coming up with a way of repeating consulting projects in the Salesforce space where every project is uniquely designed to a particular enterprise customer.
Yeah.
And trying to find, what's reusable between these enterprise clients that is significant enough that it actually is a time saver, but is not so significant that it's forcing you down a path that doesn't fit your client.
Right. It's a tough putt either way. So next question. This is kind of a philosophical question about business and the ecosystem. So Traction, of course, is now with Salesforce. That was a big acquisition, and we know a lot of people there. Aperio, of course, is gone. Blue Wolf is gone, Cloud Sherpas is gone, and on and on. And last time we talked, when you talked about being at Aperio, it was like the idea that we were going to be there forever. I think you had that opinion, and
Yeah,
it was just
absolutely.
we're going to be old people there. And my question is this: is like, I guess when I heard Traction got bought, I was happy for the people involved, but a part of me was a little bit sad because of that idea that this ecosystem could produce a consulting firm that could eventually stand on its own and, you know, be something new, or maybe go public itself. Or, and is that, my question is that impossible? Is that just a dream, or is that even a desirable thing?
It's a great question. I think there are competing forces at play for whether or not it's a desirable thing. If your goal is to start up a consulting company for the purposes of eventually having the big get out, you know, the big, you know, sell out, the IPO, like eventually getting out of the system, that sets up a certain type of organization, a certain type of goals and priorities. I don't think we have enough companies that truly at their core would be content to spend the rest of their adult lives in the normal spectrum working, but working at their company, building it up and creating an environment that lasts beyond them.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like, is it desirable? I mean, it's desirable to me, and I would love to see that. I would love to see other firms do that. But the type of personality that is perhaps going for those larger firms in the current ecosystem, maybe that's not even a viable goal anymore. I don't think that it is healthy in the grander scheme of things to just have a few monoliths and to that is slowly being acquired by the primary producer of that technology, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's something else. I don't think that is a healthy space for the product, for the people who implement it, or ultimately for the clients. Yeah. So I think it's an anti-pattern when I see this. And so it gives me, it makes me a little bit sad every time I hear the next big acquisition, and it's just like another player has been removed from the board is the way that I see it, as opposed to something really positive.
Yeah, I mean, the Romans used to say, through fire all things are renewed, right? So maybe Traction being taken into the mothership, there'll be new ones sprouting. But it's like you have Accenture and Deloitte. When was the last time something new, comparable to them, but new, was formed, right? I don't know. You know, it's just, and is the margin in consulting big enough to even justify a company like that going public anymore, you know?
Yeah, and should is there that value at that size? Maybe we do need just a healthy boutique ecosphere.
Yes.
I mean, it's sure that works for me,
Yeah.
but you know, when it comes to, you know, these absolutely very large consulting organizations that do everything, you know, maybe that isn't sustainable in the
Right.
You know, post-pandemic, great resignation cycle world. Yeah, maybe we do need to rethink what the workforce of the future looks like.
I sometimes think there could have been an alternative universe where Aperio, Blue Wolf, and Cloud Sherpas joined forces and created just like a whatever that is, on just bigger, right? But maybe that's not possible.
No, I think it was absolutely possible. There is a path. It's not even like the best timeline. Like, there is a completely reasonable path that could have happened. And I really thought that Aperio had initial structure to grow into that great tree of the forest that is there in perpetuity.
Yes.
And so that was heartbreaking when they did end up selling out. But through Fire All Things Are Renewed, that was the trigger that led me to start my own firm and bring on my own people. So,
well, yeah, and the acorns of Aperio were thrown all over this burned down forest and is sprouting up all over. And you are a sprout.
I am.
I'm some sort of sprout myself. But this next question is about running a business, right? So, and in general, when you're hiring someone, how do you know that they would be a good fit? And let me just tell you, step back a minute. Like, I interview people for my job sometimes, and it's like, I don't want my prejudices to come in and like have someone, oh, they think like me, so I like them, they should be hired, they'll be a great fit. I think people tend to do that, right? You're interviewing to see how much they're like you, and not, and I try to say, what can this person teach me? But how do you know, like, if someone's, just a horrible fit or a psychopath? And I almost want to say, when I'm interviewing people, is like, will you tell me that you're going to be awesome or not? Right? Just, I'm not going to judge you one way or the other. Like, we can't all be awesome all the time. But what do you think about that?
I think one of the things that I've been incredibly fortunate within my own company is the pool of people that I've brought in are all just absolutely amazing. And realistically, that's not generally possible for everyone. But for me and for my company and in my needs, it's been incredible. Part of that is, first and foremost, create a company that the best possible people want to join. Even before they get there are things that you can be doing to ensure that you are attracting the type of people that you most want. When it comes to any individual, as far as like them, once we're actually in that interview point and evaluation point, the things that I'm most interested in hearing about is their ability to learn and their desire to learn, more so than what they have learned. So if they've learned something and they have a good story around that and they have some passion around it, then they are probably able to be trained. And many of my people have a very eclectic background, which is what I have. And that's, in the space that we work in, so much of what we do is creativity, not just science. And it's important to be able to have that flexibility of thinking through how these things from your past are applicable and letting that motivate you. And I look for compassion and kindness. We as consultants and trusted advisors have to be sensitive to our client. So I don't necessarily want the person who is the largest ego in the room, but having confidence that giving tough love, that's also necessary for certain roles. Right. But not every role needs to do that, and you can grow into that.
Yeah. I don't know why this is related, but Vanessa Grant, who I met, I don't know if you know her. I talked with her 2 episodes ago. Fascinating person. She tweeted out there was a firm advertising that they're trying to recruit people, and they were going to get them to get 6 certifications in 6 months. And every cell in my body kind of creeped out from that, right? Like, it just doesn't seem. And I go into I do a lot of thinking about education and higher education, and the idea of signal versus knowledge, right? Like,
right.
When I get a degree from a prestigious university, which I did, it's a signal to the market, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I learned anything, right?
Right.
And if I don't know, worked at a coffee shop for 30 years, I might not have a credential, but I might have gained wisdom from all the people that I talk to every day. And maybe I went to the library and read books. I guess there's no question there other than, what do you think of this credentialing and the 6 certifications in 6 months kind of deal?
I am an incredible proponent of continuous education and learning. And the reality of learning is that it has to be done through scaffolding. You have to go through rounds of exposure, rounds of working with more complex stuff and building on the basics. And each iteration can get you further. When you do that fire hose approach, you go to that weekend intense course or that week-long thing, there is stuff that you will get, but humans can only absorb so much in a given amount of time. Right. And really advanced people could go to that week-long seminar and get a lot more out of it, but they also probably don't need it as much.
Right.
Because you're not learning everything, you're just getting the gaps filled in. So when I hear things like that I feel like that's not a commitment to the lifelong learning at the company.
Right.
Yeah, doing 1 or 2 certifications a year is probably a reasonable max. And having that plan of making time throughout your career, not just when you get started, not just to make sure that you can always staff people who are 6x times certified, but having people who are continuously getting better and getting more exposure and getting investment in their learning. That to me is the power of an employer investing in their people.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. I hope that answered your question, or maybe went down.
I don't know if it wasn't on my list of questions. It's just something that popped in my head. It's also like the difference between having someone who could understand how to do heart surgery from a book really well. Maybe they passed the test and paper, versus someone who's going to actually cut you open, right? And it's just the ancient Greeks had the idea of, well, the word technology comes from the word techne, which means not only like if you have the techne of sailing a boat, it's not only you know how to run the mast and the sails and the rudder, but you know what to do under any circumstances. So when a gale comes, you know what to do. When you spring a leak, when pirates come by, you know what to do, right? That's what techne is, and that's the spirit of technology, right? It's not something you can go to sailboat school and learn.
You mean my 1 3-hour course didn't teach me everything about sailing? I'll have to reach out for a refund.
Right. Well, there you go.
I love that origin of technology like that. What a wonderful thing. This is why I love hanging out with John.
Well, thank you. I learned that in college. I might have to Google it in case it's changed or something. But next question, and this is an odd question. Dreamforce.
Mm-hmm.
What is great about it, and what is terrible about it?
What is great about it is the 2 things that are great about it, in my opinion, is for those who are regularly going there or who work with a lot of people virtually, it's a way of actually reconnecting with people in person that you haven't seen often, and being able to geek out with your fellow extreme Salesforce geeks because you're all there and you're all really excited to be there and you get to spend time together. That is its own sort of priceless thing. But on a grander scale, and this can sometimes go a little bit too extreme, but the Kool-Aid is valuable. Getting Salesforce really can get you excited about something. And that momentum can really drive you to learn new technology, to talk about the new technology with either your internal people or with clients. It's our career and it's our ecosystem, and sometimes just allowing yourself to get really excited about that. It is recharging, and I feel like that's a piece that generally they do really well.
Yeah.
The bad that is a trend is that it is more and more marketing focused rather than practical focused. And I recognize that it's primarily a major sales event.
Yeah.
But I really, as someone in the space implementing, or if I bring clients who are using the platform for their day-to-day, having more things that are geared towards the survival of an implemented system is extremely valuable for the overarching cost of flying out to California and being in San Francisco for several days. It's, you might not be there buying anything immediately.
Right.
But if you can get more grounded in some stuff you already have, the long tail of that is that you're going to continue to buy Salesforce products and add-ons and licenses. So
right.
I would love to see Salesforce do more of that.
Yeah. That's I've always kind of wondered why there isn't like an alternative to Salesforce that's just a bit cheaper, but this tends to happen in markets, right? Like,
yeah, and that's the world tour. In the Northeast region, we have Northeast Dreamin', which
I mean Salesforce itself, the product.
Right.
Something like an alternative platform.
Oh, an alternative platform to Salesforce.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I have no clue why that hasn't come out yet. I thought 10 years ago Amazon was going to do it. Like, I'm just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, there's some companies that could do it, but there's some marketing people there wondering, because Salesforce is expensive, right? I mean, I work with higher ed and nonprofits a lot. It kills their budget.
It's expensive, and at this point, it is based on a 20, 30-year-old infrastructure. Like even Lightning is layered on top of all of these committed back-end decisions that were made, at the end of the 90s. So, I think that that the ecosystem is right for a competitor, but it's a testament to how good and powerful Salesforce is that anyone with the capacity to do that has said, nah, not yet. We're not there yet. We don't have the ability yet.
It hasn't happened in a long time, but every once in a while you used to see the Oracle errors pop up. That's when you really messed up, right? I always felt
that's when you've earned yourself your own special trailhead badge when you've gotten that level.
Yeah. But I used to be an Oracle programmer when I started, and it used to give me pride that there's Oracle 7, my old friend, that those databases will survive a nuclear holocaust, and keep running after we're all cockroaches.
They will rebuild the world once we're gone.
Yes. You're a technologist and a creative person. I was wondering what your thoughts are on the metaverse.
You mean like Facebook's metaverse, like that piece?
The metaverse. Yeah, the virtual world. People buy real estate.
I have a lot of hope that some really incredible things can happen through virtual reality and through augmented reality. But speaking strictly of virtual reality for the second, I'm an early adopter of the technology. I support it. I'm a person who I am happy to buy the latest hardware just to inject money into the system to be like, I am here. I want this to keep getting better. I don't think we are quite there yet with the casual convenience of extended time in virtual reality. And for me, wearing like for instance, the Quest 2 headset.
So you have the Oculus Quest, right?
Yeah. Well, I currently it's the Oculus Quest 2. But yeah, okay. I was there with the original Oculus. and I will continue to like keep buying various headsets. The removal of wires was a necessity. I think that was a critical piece from the Oculus Rift to the Oculus Quest 1. If for no other reason, you do find yourself getting tangled in the wires, and that takes you out of the moment as you deal with the reality of a corporeal body.
Yeah.
Corporeal body. I do think that there are still challenges with the headset's ability to manage both perspiration on the lens, focus adjustments for an individual, and extended comfort of having what is an ever increasingly light but still pretty weighty headset on your head.
Okay.
I think the core point will happen when the ask of the user is a very lightweight, very easily on and off, manageable, almost like glasses solution. And at that point, you have the wireless, sensor free, it's all done within the headset itself. Then you start getting into some spaces that allows for both freedom of movement as well as comfort. And I honestly am super excited for the point where I can have my team virtually whiteboarding together in the comfort of our homes, but still being able to have all of the advantages of physicality, of a three-dimensional space to interact with. I think that will be really powerful and really valuable. I just don't think we're there yet. And the avatars that exist currently are not quite there to represent enough dynamic nature for me to feel like it's a comfortable visualization.
Wow. I knew that would be a good question for you. I didn't know you're actually in the metaverse now. What do you do there? Do you
mostly I'm there for gaming. One of the more disappointing experiences that happened was when the Mars rover was landing. NASA had in virtual reality a live watch party, which I was super excited for it. But all it was you would go to this virtual room, and effectively it was a movie theater with a flat screen of what they were showing just on their website. So it wasn't. It's still trying to figure out where that combination of doing something in virtual reality versus doing something that incorporates virtual reality. So in that example, what was special about it being in virtual reality was that you had this virtual room with other virtual people that were all watching it together. But that was honestly less comfortable and less engaging than just watching it at my computer. I think when it comes to sports, there's so much potential for maybe not live watching, but watching a game after the fact in a virtual reality setting where you have that component. Watching a concert, watching theater virtually. All of us getting the best seats at the Met, watching our favorite opera. Like, how cool would that be? And yet, I think we're still a decent ways away from the full accessibility of those types of events.
So, combining my previous two questions, do you think before we retire, we'll go to a Dreamforce in the metaverse?
Oh yeah. That it might not be the metaverse, it might be something else, but I do not doubt at all that.
I mean that generically metaverse.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't been to Dreamforce, there's a sort of grove forest thing that they put together for you to have specific sets of booths and panels and events, and in the metaverse, that could be an entire forest of endless space, and all of these people could interact. If you're watching someone present, everyone could actually be close enough to see and hear the event. Many of us have had those experiences where you're far enough away where you can't actually hear the speaker.
Right.
You know, I think that is very, very reasonable in the relatively near future. Part of the challenges with that is it can't just be the headset or the technology. It has to be the content and the content creation. And much like when gamification was getting a lot of buzzworthiness, gamification done well is extremely valuable. It's really hard to do gamification well. I think the same is said with rolling out a user experience in virtual reality that is welcoming, comforting, intuitive, and useful. I think that is a challenging thing, and it's not going to be easy to get into that space, and it's going to require a lot of investment. And I think it's a worthwhile investment.
Yeah.
But it will take time, and we just kind of have to be prepared for that.
I don't know if I'm prepared for that.
Well, you have time.
I just picture like putting on a headset and seeing Metallica. They're 80 years old, and their little avatars are playing their music, and I don't know.
I mean, you'd be on stage with them if you wanted to with the headset. Like that's, they don't have to be tiny. You could be right up there. There's one of the things that won me over early on with Oculus was an Edgar Allan Poe experience of The Raven, where you were in the room as the poem was happening with some stylistic writing on the walls and animation. It was brilliantly creative, and it was just and that was an early example, and it just really helped to set the stage of thinking about things radically different of how you interact.
That's a good point, and I think it comes down to the idea of the technology has to get to a certain point, and I don't know do you remember Second Life?
Yeah,
that was kind of the same idea. We just didn't have the technology at the time, just float around like this. And creativity, right? Because it's kind of like the temptation is always to recreate the stuff we have in virtual, right? When maybe reality is reality because that's the way reality is good, and maybe recreating reality in virtual reality just is crappy reality.
Yeah. So what is the special thing that virtual reality gives you that you can't do? And I do think that there are some brilliant people currently working on this in both gaming and non-gaming, in productive as well as relaxation and entertainment spaces across the spectrum around the world. And I think that's really cool.
That is cool. And I'm glad they're out there. And I have to get back to real reality soon. And it's been lovely talking to you as always. I love your mind.
Thank you.
And it's thank you for everything you do.
I'm happy to come back whenever you would like. I love hanging out with you, John.
Absolutely.
I will catch you all later.
Have a good evening. Take care.